Hey, everybody, what is going on? This is Scott Garber back in the saddle of the Profluence Sports Podcast, where we are highlighting founders, investors, executives across the sports business landscape. Today, I'm excited to welcome my dear friend and head of technology and sports at Citrin Cooperman, Tom Porricelli, to the show. Tom, my man, how are you doing today?
We're doing, Scott. We're doing good, Scott. How we doing, man?
Man,
How's
so
things with you?
good. So good. It's so fun to finally be live in action with you. After years of building, Tom, I'm excited to finally bring all the exciting work that we've been doing together to the greater sports business community. But we know by listening to this show that it's not my story to tell. So, Tom, let's go ahead and give the listeners a little background on who you are, what you've been doing over your long tenure at Citrin, and we'll use that foundation to build off of.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah. So this isn't where I thought I would have been 15 years ago, playing D2 sports and baseball. Had the opportunity to leaving school with 2 degrees, trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do as my next step, right? Being a 22-year-old kid. And 15 years later, finally found a way to marry what pays me day to day and what I love, which has always been sports. Sports has always been that universal language for me, across multiple different latitudes of life. So in that, I was able to find a little bit of a niche, becoming a partner here at Citrin over the last 15 years, and at the same time becoming our technology and sports practice leader, leading, the group here internally. Citrin, for those that don't know, we're a mid-sized accounting firm based in New York, and we work with that middle market, premier middle market companies, founders, those that have looking to build that generational wealth at the end of the day for the next gen and in what they're doing at the early stages of life. Really, Scott, this has been like I call it a dream come true at the end of the day, right? Where I've been able to take what I've learned for the 12 years pre-partner, then making partner, and then now being able to kind of give that back to the founders, those that are building in the space, and help them along the way, in the sense of them the missteps that kind of happen, in those early stages of life. And that you've been a part of that community, and especially what you guys have done with Profluence and things of that nature over the last few years too. So
No, it's really exciting. And, I love that notion of taking what you do to earn a paycheck and marrying it with the passion. And really being a visionary, Tom. It's worth mentioning that the power of bringing good people together. Tom attended one of our Profluence events at Pace University, and it just goes to show you never know who is going to show up and what's going to come from it. But, so quickly we learned that not only were you a visionary, but you had this ability to go ahead and sort of see where the puck was going, sort of leveraging the tenure you had in the technology space and bringing that over into this emerging asset class of sports. And starting to help early innovators on their journey, but also folks that are more developed, as they start to think about their exit strategy and like what they're going to do next. Tom, give me a little insight, beyond the passion there. What were some of the key indicators that, from a firm level and from Tom's lens that said that, this is a viable asset class where Citrin can not only leverage my expertise, but some of the other folks that we have on the bench to really put our shoulder to the plow and be a prominent player from a accounting and tax perspective.
yeah, no, and I guess taking that back and looking at the calendar, I guess you and I are coming up on our 1 year anniversary, right? So which is kind of cool to think about. But at the same time, I feel like we've known each other for 15 years at this point. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the beauty of Citrin, being here for 15 years, watching what we've kind of grown from that traditional audit and tax shop to really being an advisor, right? An advisor to the world, to the clients that we work with, to specific industries, right? That's kind of how I've grown up here, and that's the way that you really become that um, uh, partner to your clients, that advisor to your clients at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and you really create that foothold, right? That place in the marketplace that let's go use Citrin because of X, Y, and Z, right? And that's really what we did here. And that's where, when you look at the sports landscape, when you look at what Profluence is, when you look at even in the tech space at the end of the day, a lot of what we do as an accounting firm is rinse and repeat, right? You just make sure that you're gearing it towards the people of what they're building and how they're building it so that you can make sure that their needs are being met, right? It's so funny because I've been in this space for so long now, but still, the ripe age of 38 at the end of the day, still a young pup, but like it's the same stuff over and over. Everybody thinks that because one founder did it one way, that's going to work for them this way. But realistically, everybody's situation is different. And that's how we operate. We gear we gear our work and our product to that situation, to their situation, because every founder is different. Every space and every opportunity is different when it comes down to it. And that's what's really cool about the sports as an asset class, right? You know, you have their tiers, right? You have the tier ones, which are like your sports leagues, your sports teams, right? Those are the unicorns, right? That everybody wants to get into, everybody thinks about, right? And then you got the tier twos, which is like the media, the data companies, those that are kind of, you know, right below that, supporting the leagues. But then you really, kind of gets forgotten at the end of the day is the ecosystem, right? The people that are building, the emerging companies, right? Those that are building, you know, the landscape of the dribbles of the world and things of that nature that are helping support the products that the athletes are using, the youth space is using, all the things that we kind of, you know, you and I are relative age. As we grew up in sports 20 years ago in that youth sports space, you know, it was getting East Bay magazine and finding out what bat I had. Now you're looking at kids today, and they got, you know, the soccer guard that they're wearing for their, you know, to monitor their health. You got AI.io out there doing their thing, you know, and stuff like that. It's night and day. And those are the companies, and that tier three, when you really look at it, those are the ones that are really becoming the game changers at the end of it, realistically. But what's happening, and across it, and this is everywhere, it's under institutionalized. One, from a capital perspective, because having the right capital in the right place at the right time is always huge, but also from a finance and accounting lens, most people think that you can do a broad stroke with it, but what you're missing is the bigger picture of how you actually, you need to have your, you know, books in line, the tax compliance at the end of the day. As you're going into different places and different things, there's different things you need to start thinking about as it relates to that overall landscape. And that's really where we try to take that approach of, you know, it's not a one size fit all scenario.
No, and we've been able to experience that, you know, from leveraging, you know, different professionals within Citrin to come and educate Profluence and other contributors to this sporting asset class, to hosting events, to doing all kinds of cool ways to bring things together. But Tom, I'm really curious, you know, in this world, there's a fine line that we draw between delivering value and transacting commercially. How do you think about, from a firm lens, when working with some of the picks and shovels, the early innovators, building that long-term pipeline? I think service partners sometimes get a negative tint where it's a quid pro quo, you know, we'll help you, but, and I've experienced quite the opposite from your lens. How do you and Citrin think about this ecosystem approach of leveraging resources to try and help elevate communities and builders before you actually sign the deal with them? Give us a little insight to the methodology and, you know, sort of the method behind the madness there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing comes to relationships, right? Like, the thing that really sparked and you said this earlier, you know, when we met at the PACE event last year, the biggest thing that's really kind of jumped off the page at me was the people in the room, right? The people that you're talking to, the people, it's not a transactional thing, right? These things that people are building, they're their babies, right? They're their, you know, as a father of two, you like, my two little kids are my things that I want to make sure to grow and putting the right things around them as they get older, right? So in the same thing as a founder or somebody that's building in the space that's early on, they don't know what they don't know. So you lean on people in the ecosystem to ultimately help cultivate that, to help get you to that next level. And that's kind of the approach I take, right? It's being practical, being real. And I think that's really what drove me to you at the end of the day is you take that same approach. You had that athlete mentality, like, I'm going to win no matter what it is and what it takes at the end of the day. And that's where I've always come from. Like, I'm not the biggest kid on the field, but you know what? I figured it out. I figured it out every time when I was told that they're going to bring another 4-star recruit in at the end of the day, right? And I think that in the way of life and the way that we try to preach it here internally, it's building a relationship. Because if you can build a foundation that's non-transactional, you have so many more opportunities that are going to come your way. Because one, they're going to trust you as a person, right? Because you're going to take care of them, right? It doesn't matter when that phone call is going to come in. But also at the same time, when you look at it from an ecosystem perspective, you're going to be able to be leaned on to make those additional intros and bring the right people to the table and start, you know, really cultivating a culture and a foundation that those companies and those early stage founders are going to need at the end of the day. So
No, it's really interesting. And I mean, Tom, I want to double down on this because I think one of the things that I was enamored with was, you're not doing things in the most traditional way. And sometimes when we think about, CPAs, we think about, just sort of cookie cutter. Give us a little insight as to, when you were tipped off that instead of going death by a thousand paper cuts and trying to just show up to events and meet people, when did you sort of flip the script and say, hey, if I'm able to partner with communities that have already earned the trust of these folks to then be able to come in and align and educate and then ultimately accelerate that trust building process? When did you start using and leveraging communities versus just sort of showing up and throwing the logo on an existing event? Curious your sort of build up to that.
I mean, I say it in the sense that, you know, being in this space and watching what we've done as a firm and grow over the time that we have, where we had this substantial exponential growth going from a top 30 firm to a top 15 firm. And that's all based upon revenue numbers at the end of the day. In order for us to do those certain things, we needed to bring ample things internally to support that, right? From a service perspective, right? And being out in the market when you're competing with the Deloittes and the big four of the world, you're never going to compete on name, right? So it's finding different ways to break the mold, right? For us in New York, we have our certain competitors that we deal with every day and twice on Sunday. And it's trying to find a way to differentiate ourselves, right? And you said something before, like, I don't normally take the maybe not the correct path, right? But I'm going to take a path that's going to get me to where I know I got to get to, right? And it's all based upon the people that I want to grow with, right? And build. And that's really kind of what this all came out to, is that I hated the fact that I was relying on these couple people to like help generate business at the end of the day. And as we got more involved with maybe some of the VC firms of the world, we started seeing, okay, yeah, this is a one-to-many scenario, right? So then it was like, okay, well, how do we start figuring this out? And I use the joke or the of like, you pay the mafia, right? I'm Italian by trade, right? So like, think about that. Like you pay the mafia and you go off and you let them do the work for you, right? Because there's a pay to play scenario, right? And that it's kind of like take it to sports. You use sports, it's pay to play, right? So like if you want to get in, you want the best opportunity to succeed. Yeah, you're going to try to put yourself with the best opportunities or the best groups like yourself. And that was really the play with you guys, is that I saw what you guys had. And it came from one meeting, right? It came from those 15 people that I met at Pace that first day. And it was like, they're awesome in the sense of what they're building, but take that aside. And I remember going back, my wife, like I went back and told Colleen, I was like, hey, this is probably one of the coolest things I had ever gone to. And they didn't serve alcohol. And I was like, that was like the little nuance. And obviously it was at a college, so obviously that wasn't done, but like, that was like a trigger. It was like, cool. If I was able to we were able to do this in that setting, why can't we just rinse and repeat this over time and find the right people, right? And that's really what it came down to. And that was the strategy behind it. That it kind of like was the kickoff at the end of the day. And I couldn't be happier, right? And that's really what it comes down to, because that's where you build these relationships out, because it doesn't become transactional anymore, right? We build out because we want to help the community roll at the end of the day and evolve. And that's what becomes fun for me, being in this space of everything is transactional. It's so depressing in that sense, right? And that's where when you can go talk to a founder and help them. Like I was on a call with a founder earlier today. His company, which is a major league team, did his W-2 wrong, gave him, and just talking to him was like, hey, just FYI, you need to fix this, right? Or like, hey, there's these R&D credits over here for all this money that you spent. And he's like, oh, there is? What is that? So like when you can do those things, it's like, cool, not another sword off my back, but great. Now I can just go help this person that's building something really cool, and I'm going to be able to provide value. And that's really what gets me going at the end of the day in these scenarios. And that's what you can really do within these communities.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, I'm going to draft back to my playing days. And when I was getting recruited, it was like, how do you find the best program that's the best fit for you based on, X, Y, Z and criteria. And when we came into the innovation life cycle of sports and the picks and shovels that are truly building the ecosystem that we're all participating in, we realized that the best in class resources were very challenging to find, right? And so we typically went with the folks that we might have known their names, but not might have been the best fit for us. And I think that it doesn't matter, how you did it last year. It doesn't matter how you did it 5 years ago. The reality is the infrastructure has changed, the rules have changed. And as a lifelong learner, I believe it's imperative to stay educated and up to date from experts that we can trust. And then you get to make your decision on who you use as your service partner. And I think that's been the biggest iteration is school is where we used to go to learn. And then after school, you were sort of on this island. You got to make choices on who you read or who you read or who you listened to. But to be able to create this continuity between founders and partners like Citrin that are doing amazing things in the CPA world, that's when you start to go ahead and watch the magic happen of just good humans genuinely trying to shape a better place to transact. Tom, I got to ask, as someone, running multiple practices within Citrin, you guys are growing at scale. How do you stay up to date with the latest tools, with, where to point the arrow, where to lean in and, help founders, whether that's QSBS or R&D credits? Like, how are you constantly making sure that you're up to speed with both internal tools and regulations?
I think it's that the opportunity that we have here, right? It's not just a one person firm, right? We got 4,000 people here, right? We're a culture of partners that have come from Big Four that just wanted a little bit of a different lifestyle, right? So it's leaning on our experts here, from a technical perspective, from an ecosystem perspective, from those within the network, and really leveraging the team as a whole, right? I mean, going back to sports, right? Nobody, I mean, aside from golf, and if you look at, listen to the Scotty Schefflers of the world now, it's not just one person, right? You have a whole team behind you, right? And that's really what this is, right? It's that one band, one sound, clip from Nick Cannon, right? Like that's really what it comes down to here, right? It's those sort of things where, it's not just me, right? No, there's countless people that are at this firm that day in and day out are the ones that are really driving, picks and shovels, right? That are really getting things moving forward, right? Because without those people, we don't have what we have here at the firm and the opportunities that we have to work and do really cool things at the end of the day. So, but and then on the other side, it's going back to the community, right? It's leveraging the community and the people that are there, listening to different people talk. Like you had on the podcast last week, or on in the community, you had the guy from the Cubs,
Bobby.
yeah. So like listening to what he's got to say and what his thoughts are on the investing in the sports tech space, and things of that nature, leaning on our investment bank contacts and our and things those that are really shaping the capital side of things, but also listening to people from the law firm side and what they think on the NIL stuff and things of that nature. And so it's really just leveraging the community and the people that you have and bringing that all together to provide that back to our clients, our prospects, and things, and our community members at the end of the day.
It's so good. It's so fun to build in this fashion where, you're able to transact. We're able to hit all the goals that we want from a professional standpoint, but you get to do it with your friends and you build relationships that transcend far beyond business. And I always say that, business is just one expression of us as a human. And so when you're able to go ahead and do it with the people you like, it turns into a lifestyle, which becomes really cool. Tom, as we turn the corner here, a couple more questions for you. Let's talk about Peak. You guys are a sponsor at Peak. Everybody in the industry is buzzing about it. For everyone who's listening, give them a little insight to who's going to be out there, what to expect from the Citrin team. And, I think I might let the cat out of the bag, but I think you guys are doing the closing party and we might be locking arms on that one. So give us a little insight as to what to expect from the conference later in the month.
Yeah, no, it was a great opportunity. I appreciate you guys bringing us in there and talking with Chad and Max over there at Peak. It went from just attending and kind of seeing what it was to kind of evolving and having those conversations with the team over there about, really driving the conversation, right? Driving the conversation as it relates to sports tech, and really all the pillars that we kind of talked about on today, right? About what, the sports as an asset class. Yeah, Citrin and Profluence are partnering on the Peak Night ending party, which is awesome. So really looking forward to that. But yeah, we have Lucy Lee, who leads our national tax practice from an M&A side of things. We'll be speaking on one of the panels. She's a rock star at the end of the day. And then we'll have our group there, facilitating the rooms and walking the rooms and things of that nature. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It looks like it's going to be a really optimal event for what this space has probably been missing for a while, right? I come from a world where, part of my world was in the franchising space, and they always had that one event that everybody can get to, right? And, when this came about, I was like, this landscape looks very familiar, right? And when you could put a lot of people who are going to drive conversation, or the ones that are driving conversation and doing the things within the space, you're gonna have an awesome event, and you're gonna have an awesome conference at the end of the day. So that's really what the biggest thing that appealed to me when it was all said and done. It's just the amount of people that they're able to curate in one place at one time.
It's needed. I think continuity and alignment, not just in sports, but as society continues to shape and reimagine, what the future looks like. It's so important to get the builders together to have alignment. So we're all pushing towards a unified North Star, and super excited that our space is finally leaning into that with some precision there. All right, Tom, we're going to do rapid fire here as we wind it down. Over the span of 2026, from an accounting lens, what's one piece of advice that you would give to founders that they might not be thinking about? We're not going to hold you to the fire, but let's keep it a little bit more generic. What's one area that they should be paying attention to where there could be some opportunities for them to, learn more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the nuts and bolts, right? None of this stuff is complicated when you really think about it. If you put yourself with the right person and the right team around you, you should be rushing to the finish line to get your returns done and things of that nature. But I think the one thing that really stands out and I think really resonates with a lot of our clients, especially the ones that are building early, is the qualified small business stock and the R&D credits, because those are two things that become invaluable, as getting, in theory, free money as it relates to the R&D credits for those that are building and leveraging and built here in the States. And then the QSBS is the tax free or tax haven a little bit from the standpoint of when you go sell the company, right, where you can leverage those dollars back and reinvest them back in, but very minimal tax situation, right? So I think those are the two things that you should be talking to your people about. If you're not, you should talk to us. I mean, realistically, that's the biggest thing when it's said and done, is it's a big play. It's a big thing for a founder. If I was a founder, those are the things that I'm asking, right? Tax compliance aside, building aside, it's probably those two things, because those are the two things that are going to be monumentally foundational for you. And maybe at the same time, just making sure that when you're going to raise capital, make sure you know what you're doing. Don't give away the house. Like, there's no need to. There's so many other options out there. You can go figure things out. There's no need to go give up something that you've built for so long, blood, sweat, and tears, just because you want to, there's somebody that's going to, dangle $1 in front of you, in my opinion.
Drop the mic. I think that is a great shortcut right there, or short snippet that we can apply to our businesses, because I think it is, when we talk about capital, when we talk about getting a partner on the CPA or the legal, anything that is infrastructure and core to your business, we approach that like finding another partner to do life with, right? That's how serious we take it, because the reality is you're gonna be spending a lot of time with these folks, and you're trusting them with a ton of what you put your time, money, and energy into. So I think that's great advice, and quick plug, but we continue to do ongoing learning sessions in Profluence to not just talk about QSBS, but actually understand what that is and why that's important and how does that apply to my business, and then you're able to put the trusted team around it. So forever grateful for that. Tom, outside of the CPA world, what are you reading? What are you listening to? What's got you excited just to continue to keep the iron sharp?
Non-kids related?
Non-kids related. No kids, man. No kids. That's just adult stuff.
I come from a world where a lot of it's accounting related, just to like we talked about earlier on that end of it. I guess I don't have anything. I've had a lot of words in this thing. I think you probably got me stumped there in the sense of like what I'm actually. You know what? I'm reading a book right now about leadership right now, and I think that's a big thing that we're like I think it's. Blanking on the name of it off the top of my head, shows you how much I've read of it so far. But ultimately, the genesis of it is like, and this, you're an athlete, compete at a high level, then you get yourself that next level of whatever it is in your professional life. And it's like, okay, what do I do now? Right. And that's where I'm at. Right. And it's like figuring out how I can take what I've done in my story over the last 15 years, help somebody else. Right. And do that across my team and really become that support system for them. So that's what I'm doing right now. And those are the things that I'm really kind of gearing myself towards, aside from just continuing to build out this practice and supporting the ecosystem.
I love it. Yeah. And we have to be intentional about making time to work out and time to pour into ourselves to continue to learn. And as Tom and I are both fathers of young children, we find out that time feels elusive, even though we all have the same amount of it in a day. Tom, listen, man, if somebody is listening to this podcast and they want to get in touch with you, learn more about Citrin Cooperman, what is the best way to do so?
Yeah, I mean, best way to get in touch with me is, email, text, cell, LinkedIn, whatever it is. Not Scott, not sure how you share those things, but more than happy to provide that information as needed. But yeah, happy to connect and talk. However, and
Love it.
support.
Well, listen, from the Profluence team, one, thank you for just being an amazing steward of the industry, seeing what we're building and putting the shoulder to the plow to truly make this space just a little bit better than we found it is ultimately the name of the game. And you and all of the folks at Citrin Cooperman have just been such advocates of leaning in and doing it the right way. So forever grateful, excited. If you're at peak and you hear this before, please come up and introduce yourself to Tom. Just an absolute amazing human that will help navigate in any way possible, whether it's Citrin or non-Citrin related. And we're having a hell of a time doing it, man. So thank you for everything that you do. Tom, I look forward to seeing you out in Las Vegas and onward and upward, my friend.
Likewise, my friend. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome.